How to add up a tent quickly. Beginner's definitive guide. Tents have been the most vital accessories for hiking, camping, and picnics. Even so, you cannot use a tent unless you set it up in this post. I give you one of the simplest and most informed guides on how to set up a tent. Having tried white times and failed, I understand what it is like to spoil a great camping party with this one mishap. Site tight A. ND. Let me give you every tip that you should follow when setting up your camping tent or any other tent for that matter. Required tools. Before setting up your tent, you will need quite a number of tools to make the process quite successful. These tools will include, but are not limited to the following: takes rods, ground cover, now pegs, hammer, mallet, no, tay. Most items required to set up a tent will usually come together with the tent when you buy it. However, if you don't find them when you buy, then you can always look for these tools that I have given you above. Setting up the tent. Once you have these tools with you, then this is the best way on how to set up a tent. It is simple, practical, and fast. Step I. Choose the best location. Site. The ground on the site should be flat. The reason a flat ground will be recommended is simple. Your ground is usually comfortable to sleep on. However, if it is on a slope or snow-prone regions, you should scout for uneven land. Step 2. Make sure the ground is clean and free of any sharp objects. Of the objects that you will need to clear include the following: harp stones, debris, dried leaves, twigs, metallic objects if any. Note, the most important thing to do is to ensure that the surface is smooth and pretty even when you You should also consider the inclination of the slope. Step 3. Place the tent's ground cover over the surface that you have chosen to set up the tent. I know there are a number of people who might not find this necessary. However, for a much more comfortable setup, I recommend spreading it out. It will provide your sleeping area with the best waterproof protect ion and leave you with a dry and comfortable sleep. Step 4. Take the tent stakes, tent poles, or say rods, and then fasten each and every one of them with a tent clip. You can also use a key. Step V. Now insert your tent poles right into their corresponding flaps. The tent poles should cross each other in an X to form the main basic frame for your tent. Fitting the poles into the tent usually easy. Put one end of the pole right into the eyelet at every corner before you sleep. Do your tent pole through the small flaps that sit on the edges of the tent. Tents will provide with the plastic clips to be used at the top of every tent pole. Step 5. It is time to raise your tent. This must be done with some coordination if possible. Get an additional help for this job. Pull your tents taut moderately so that the tent remains in one piece and comes up in a shape that provides enough room for someone to sleep and use the to drive in the stakes or rods much more into the ground. Then take the tent's main rod and put T on the center of the ground. Step 7. Add on your rain fly in case your tent has one. This is Put a cap like a canopy at the top of the tent. It provides an extra guard to sun's hot rays, rain, and snow. Make sure that the rain fly is very much in place by following the right instructions to set it up. Step 8. To make sure that you have set up your tent properly, you should then recheck the stakes to ensure that they are firm onto the ground. If the stakes aren't fastened enough, you can hammer them in more. This will prevent your tent from falling down and leaving you with flattened tent. Once again, for people who love to hike on snowy areas, there are special snow pegs that you can easily use out there. How to add up a tent. Additional tips. When looking at the very best way on how to set up a tent, these additional tips will leave you with a successful process. In case you will be camping in ease with heavy wind, putting some weight on the tent will easily prevent it from being blown away. Try to always set your tent when there is still enough light to do so. This is really important to the amateurs. If you are new to this process, make sure that you take your time and practice how to set up a tent properly while still at home or before taking the camping trip. More importantly, before you plan a camping trip, it is important that you keep an eye on the weather conditions around your location. Do not set your tent under a tree, falling twigs, or on areas where water will easily pull up and cause flooding. Conclusion. Practice. This is the best tip on how to set up a tent that any newbie can actually have. It is the ultimate way to sharpen your tent pitching skills and hit the pro level. More importantly, there is usually no need to worry as the whole process is no-brainer, and once you learn it will take you very less time. I know we have all been here before. However, I want to nudge you a little more if you want to sharpen your skills and not find this process to be boring. Choose to pitch your tents in many different locations anytime you choose to.